do this. This is the Overtime Sports Show. By my count, this is episode 21, coming to you live on a Wednesday evening, a day outside of our normal time slot. I had a couple family obligations to take care of yesterday. Dan, I appreciate you being accommodating and adjusting your schedule.
Of course.
How are you doing? And I understand you're keeping the streak alive, going with another hat reveal, which I'm excited to see.
Yes, sir.
So doing yours, my man.
Yeah, doing very well.
Going.
I can't believe I'm doing well either. I remember about 2-3 weeks ago, I said that it was going to be over, and
I'm starting to think that you were just pulling my chain. That the last 3 shows, you're like, you know what? I'm out of hats. I don't have any more. But every time you keep saying that, I think at this point you have like 50 more, and you're trying to surprise me.
You know, I thought that we were going to be done 3 weeks ago, and I did a little digging. I got, my dad's got a lot of hats. I got a lot of hats. So I found a couple more, and, we're going to rock and roll with it. I got a cool story behind this hat too. So please hold.
Okay. Let me see it. 21 straight hat reveals. It's impressive. Ooh, look at this thing. Okay. Sporting the Marlins.
So yeah, we got ourselves right here an old school Florida Marlins hat, teal hat. Really funny story about this hat. So not trying to talk crap about the Florida Marlins or anybody in between, the Miami Marlins, but I went to a game last year in September with friend of the show, Chris Dolan. They had this hat that they were advertising for their Retro Fridays. Went to go buy it. It had the little sign on the side of it that said 30 years, and it wasn't in stock. So I wrote them a very long email, never got a response, but yeah, and then I did some research and I found that we have the hat. So
nice. I like it. That's that hat. I'm a sucker for some bold colors like that. There's something about that teal, that retro Marlin logo. It's bringing back the vibes of early 2000s, even late 90s. They won the World Series 97 and 03, I think.
Yeah, 97 and then 03 we don't talk about, but that's okay. Yeah. You know what happened in 03.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Chris Dolan, will remind everybody if we need to, but yeah, we don't like talking about it.
I got no love for the Marlins whatsoever. I mean, they're a rival, you could say, of the Mets, same division. They had some tough years, the Marlins, but the last few years they've been competitive. So I got no love for them, but I can admit a good hat when I see one, and that's pretty good looking hat.
Like I said, I wanted to get the fitted one with the anniversary patch, but they were out of stock last year. So, I found this one and it'll work. And, it's a nice stadium. It's one of the first stadiums I went to that was actually retractable roof. So that was kind of a cool experience when I went last year. So.
Okay, nice. Was it open when you went?
Yes. No, it was closed.
Okay.
But
did it look, the dome experience, even with it closed, did it look like, I imagine it didn't look like a mausoleum the way the Trop looks like with the Rays. Like that just.
No, it looks pretty cool. I mean, it's just like a big roof, that closes. So it's pretty cool.
Nice.
And they have windows on the outside so they could open it up and still kind of keep it with like an open air feel with the roof on top.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant. I think that's what the Trop is missing. If you look at some of the plans that the city has to keep the Rays in St. Pete, Tampa area and the new stadiums, they have the dome. Of course, you have to have it in the summertime with all the afternoon rain in Florida. But the one thing that the Trop doesn't have is, these glass windows, something sort of transparent so you could see the outside. It's just a little more inviting. Without it, it's just like, I don't know. You've been there many times. We've been there together.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, there's something different about it. And I imagine in Miami, it's a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool stadium. I mean, it's in downtown Miami where the Orange Bowl used to be. So it's accessible from all aspects of Miami, Fort Lauderdale, that whole, South Florida area. But
cool.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Good hat. I like that the streak continues. I've said it before, but it is impressive. 21 weeks in a row now, different hats. So good stuff.
Yes, sir.
So a little bit of a different show again. I guess our second show in a row. This time we really definitely don't have any football to talk. 20 weeks or so in a row. That's sort of not necessarily dominated the conversation, but we've led off a lot of our shows with NFL and college. And last time we met and did our show, we led off with that just to kind of recap the Super Bowl. But in my opinion, that's kind of all behind us now. It'll be behind us until
April,
maybe the draft in April. Exactly. Yeah. And then, before we know it, training camps will be back, but we got a few months of some different things to talk about. And I kind of wanted to lead off the show with a little bit of a recap of some hockey talk. In the NHL, they had their Stadium Series this weekend, and I was particularly interested because my favorite team, the Devils, were taking part in a pretty pivotal game against their bitter rivals, the Flyers. The game was held at MetLife Stadium in Jersey, and there was a lot of, I guess you could say, celebrities were on hand, but certainly some guest players from the NFL. You know, the Jets and the Giants both play in that stadium. They had some players from both sides, both teams there, doing some introductions for the players, helping to pump up the atmosphere. By all accounts, it looked like a great experience in person, and watching it just remotely from afar on TV, the broadcast, the reception, everything from that standpoint looked great as well. I watched the whole thing and really was not just glued because of the teams who were playing my favorite team, but it's just it's a nice spectacle. It's coincides with the traditional Winter Classic that's played on New Year's Day. The NHL does that annually, but they also do this extended Stadium Series, which gives some other teams an opportunity to play in sort of a classic outdoor game. For a lot of these players, it might be their only chance where they actually get to do this. So by all accounts, from what we hear, the players really love it. This is for the Devils, this was their second outdoor Stadium Series game in their franchise history. They played in one. Time just flies. I want to say it was 2014 or 2016. It was a number of years ago. They played the Rangers, I believe, in Yankee Stadium, and the result wasn't great. Devils ended up losing. This time around, happy to report they did win. They won in sort of convincing fashion, and it was a huge game for them. They're in a tight race, as you know. The Islanders are right there. There's a bunch of teams in the Metropolitan Division. As we get closer to the playoff race, there's a log jam of teams, and somebody's going to be on the outside looking in come early April. And I got some thoughts on that we'll touch on as the show progresses. But in terms of the Stadium Series, I thought the atmosphere was great. I really enjoyed it. The Devils have some slick jerseys they unveiled for this, kind of a bold red, sort of a simple kind of look, but very bold and bright. A lot of times when they do these unveils for jerseys, they can kind of go over with mixed results. I'll be honest, I didn't love the Rangers jerseys at all. Your Islanders jerseys I thought were pretty cool. The Flyers ones to me were kind of blocky. I didn't love theirs, but the Devils I thought kind of hit a home run with their jerseys. And I'm a tough critic when it comes to that. So I think it means a lot coming from me that I like them, to the point where I actually would like to see them replace their current third jerseys, these black.
Yeah, I don't like those. Yeah, those are atrocious.
Yeah, you've seen them. They look like what convicts would wear. I just hate those. But overall, the jerseys were great. The show was great. And obviously, cherry on top for me with the victory was much needed. But there was a game on Sunday as well. And your boys got to play in that against the Rangers. And I thought the atmosphere, again, was great. Just very similar fanfare reception. It looked great. But the result was a bit different, a bit of a heartbreaker. I don't want to steal the spotlight and the thunder. I saw it all, so I have some thoughts, but I want to give you the floor as an Islander fan to talk about what you experienced, because I know it was a bit of a roller coaster, and I do feel for you. So tell me what you think about the game in general.
Yeah, so going off of the Stadium Series, the uniforms, I don't know if you noticed, but on the side of each helmet, they had the large logos like a NFL helmet. I thought that was pretty cool. I did like the Islander uniforms. I thought it was cool how it said the Isles across the chest, and then with the obviously blue and orange. But a couple stats I want to talk about for the Stadium Series. It said that 150,000 fans filled MetLife Stadium on Saturday and Sunday, and they had an average viewing of 1.37 million viewers. So said it was up 21% from last year's Stadium Series in Raleigh, North Carolina, which I thought was really cool. Pretty impressive because, everybody knows that NHL is kind of second fiddle when it comes to the other three major sports. So I think that's a huge step forward for the NHL to get their viewership up, to get, 150,000 fans in 2 games or 2 days. That's really impressive. So that was really good for the game of the NHL, really good for just the game in general. And going off the game, I mean, I'm gonna, I could talk for hours on this one. I mean, they were up, 5-3 with less than 4 minutes left. They give up 2 power plays. The Rangers end up emptying their goal, so it's 6-on-4 advantage. They score 1 goal, and I'm like, okay, yeah, so we still got 1 more goal advantage. Then they give up another penalty, and the same thing happens. 6-on-4, tie the game up, bring it into overtime, and they win, first couple seconds. So they almost did it again last night. I watched most of the game last night against the Penguins. They were up 4-2 and with 7 minutes left. They give up 2 penalties and they tie the ball game up, bring it into overtime. However, this time we ended up beating them, but still, this team, I don't know what Patrick Waugh is trying to do. I don't know what these players are trying to do, but the trade deadline is March 8th, and we've been talking about the Islanders all 21 episodes long. They need to do something because Lou Lamoriello. I know Lou Lamoriello. This team is old. They have a bunch of guys that have been with them for 6-7 years. So if they don't turn it around, I think they're going to do a monster trade and probably trade in my boy Matt Martin, probably Cal Cutterbuck, Pulick, some of the defenders. I mean, it's just very frustrating. They have a lot of overtime losses. I'm looking at the standings right now. Yeah, most in the league. So if we look right here, they're 23-18 with 14 overtime losses. And the second most overtime losses is 11. Let's see.
The Bruins 11.
Yeah, Bruins with 11, and then the Kings with 10, and the Kraken with 11. But 3 more than any other team. I mean, that's atrocious. That's horrible. It just shows that they can't keep a lead, and then when they go in the overtime, I mean, it's 3-on-3, but still, it just shows that lack of just playing the game all the way through, and it's just very frustrating because as I said, I mean, they have the talent. I mean, they went to 2 straight conference finals. I mean, lost to a red hot Lightning team, but besides that, I mean, they beat the Lightning one year. Who knows? They could be a Stanley Cup champion in one of those years because. I want to say, I know one year they brought them to 7. Did they bring them to 7 both years, or was it just one year with the Lightning? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I know that they were all close. I have for some reason, I think one was 6, but I don't remember. They might have both been 7.
But still, I mean, and the most of that team is still around. So it's kind of be put up or shut up for the Islanders, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm with you on a lot of the things you said. I watched the game with a friend who's also a diehard Islander fan, and we pointed out a lot of the same things that, you guys have the most losses in extra time, whether it's overtime, shootout. Those are just points you're leaving on the table. You're not expected to win all of them, but when you lead the league and like you said, by 3 or more, that can come back to bite you when it comes time to either making or missing the playoffs. Another thing that stood out to me was I think you guys are dead last in terms of penalty kill. And like you said, there's one thing to take too many penalties or untimely penalties, and it seems like you probably suffer from that too. But just in general, it's hard pressed to have success and make the playoffs when you're dead last in a category as important as that. Penalty kill, power play, 5-on-5 goals. You can never be quite dead last in some of those important categories. And you guys, I think, are last. And that's something that I kind of expected a guy like Patrick Waugh to fix and adjust. You bring him in kind of at I think a weird time. I don't think a lot of people saw that move coming. I don't know if they saw Lambert getting fired in general, but I don't know that with him being let go, I definitely don't think anybody saw Patrick Waugh taking over. So you bring in that kind of guy, and I think there's high expectations. I think he is really expected to turn around your penalty kill, to turn around your record in overtimes. And I guess to your credit, they did win overtime last night, right? So it was a rare feat. So maybe they are turning things around. But yeah, that Stadium Series game I know was a heartbreaker because it was a lot of the same of what you've seen. They played a great game for most of it. I watched it. Your boy Matty Mart dropped the gloves when the Rangers struck early. Went toe to toe with this young buck. It was a nice fight, And then you guys struck back and got 3 great goals. It looked like you were opening the floodgates on Shesterkin. He looked very human for most of the game. And I thought you guys were playing a very defensive style for a lot of it, which I know is sort of the Islanders game. But then things just got out of control. And my buddy that I was sitting next to, he had some money on the game, and you could just tell he was nervous. And I was trying to be optimistic. Devils and Islanders have a bit of a rivalry, but I hate the Rangers and the Flyers way more than I hate the Islanders or the Penguins or any other Devils rival. So I was rooting for you guys, and I was trying to be optimistic. I thought it was kind of in the bag when it was 5-3 with 5 minutes to play, 4 minutes to play, whatever it was. I was trying to be optimistic for them. And then when they scored that 4th goal, I'll be honest, I thought that they pulled the goalie a little too early. I just think that when you give the other team an opportunity to go for the gaping net when they're on the power play or the penalty kill, rather, it's just too risky. But it paid off not once but twice. So you got to give props to Laviolette for knowing when to push the right buttons. But that 4th goal comes, and then it almost seemed like it was just a matter of time. And sure enough, Zibanejad on the power play, sort of in his favorite spot. As time's winding down. And then just even more of a crusher, 10 seconds into overtime, sort of a little bit of a controversial goal. I don't know if the Islanders were just sort of sleepwalking, but there was a little scrum around the crease, and it seems like they got the call right. It's definitely a weird call you don't see too often, where the net gets knocked off its moorings, and they call it a goal because the puck was going to go in regardless. So I think they got the call right, but I know it had to have been a heartbreaker for you. And there's time's winding down for teams like the Islanders, the Devils, to sort of change things before the season ends.
Yeah, I mean, it was very frustrating. I mean, there was an interesting quote that Patrick Waugh said after the game, and which I do agree with him. He said that, we played really good 5-on-5 hockey, which obviously 5-on-5 hockey is full strength on full strength. And, if you look at that, we outscored the Rangers on 5-on-5 hockey. It's just the little things that we need to improve. Obviously, as you said, the power play and, just the defense. We just need to improve that. And I mean, like I said, I was thinking the same thing when they pulled the goalie. Like, it was a lot really, really early. But I mean, if you put analytics aside and you think about analytics, not aside, but you use them 6-on-4, that's a pretty big advantage. Obviously Clutterbuck, he just missed an empty netter. I don't know if you saw that, but he popped it down there, and I think it missed it by a couple inches to put him over to be 6-3. But just, very frustrating. I mean, if you look, I was mentioning, they had 14 overtime losses. So let's say that they have half of those and only 7. That's 7 extra points. That puts them at 67. That puts them in the third wild card, at 67 points. So just very frustrating how they can't finish a game.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that. I've got, as great as the Stadium Series was for me as a fan of the Devils, it was a huge win, them beating the Flyers, who they're still looking up at in the standings. They're 5 points behind them. They
both
have
are
one
actually
game in hand. What's that?
We're both at 60 points.
Yeah, exactly. Devils Islanders are right there, pretty much as dead even as it could be. We're both trailing the Flyers by 5 points. We're trailing the Lightning by 5 points. We're trailing the Red Wings by 4. The Capitals are on our heels. The Devils lost to them last night 6-2. It was a game that they really kind of needed to have. The Penguins are on our heels. So those are all the teams that, like I said, they're fighting for 2 or 3 spots really. And there's 5 or 6 teams that are in that mix. So there's a couple teams that are gonna go home, feeling sorry for themselves. And I'm trying to be optimistic, but I feel your pain in some of what you were just mentioning. The Devils, I was so spoiled last year, them and their stars sort of not peaking, but finally seeming to put things together, all their talent. They make the playoffs for the first time in quite a few years. They beat our arch rival, the Rangers. They did get bounced in the second round, but by a really good Hurricanes team. I thought this year, having Timo Meier for a full year, they bring in a guy like Tyler Toffoli. I really thought they were just on a trajectory to go up. Like in my eyes, there's just no reason for this team to miss the playoffs. We're missing Dougie Hamilton. We sorely miss him on the back end. A couple other guys have missed time. Jack Hughes missed time. Timo missed time. But we're largely healthy right now. And a couple things I wanted to mention with the Devils in particular. I talked about your team, the Islanders, you can't be bad at some glaring things and expect to make the playoffs. And the same is true with the Devils. I look at them and their home record. They're 13-13-2. And that is, I think, good for sixth worst in the league when it comes to home record. There's only a handful of teams who have a worse record at home than them. And those teams that are worse are the absolute bottom feeders, like the teams that are going to be in the mix for the lottery. So that's
Buffalo,
how bad
Montreal, Columbus. Yeah.
I mean, those are the dregs of the league. And the fact that the Devils are in the conversation with them in terms of their home record, your home arena is supposed to be a place where you play with confidence and things are easy. And they just make it look so damn hard. And I don't know why. And I just don't think you can expect to make the playoffs when you're not good at home. And the other thing that sticks out to me is that this team has not had more than a 3-game winning streak all season. I don't even know that they've had more than one 3-game winning streak.
Yeah, that's wild.
Same thing. Like there's just no consistency with them whatsoever. It's just up, down, up, down, up, down. They can't get anything together. And again, maybe I'm spoiled last year, but they had a pretty ridiculous run last year where I think they won 12 or 13. It looked like they were never going to lose again.
Yeah,
it was awesome. But this year they can't get any momentum. And I compare it to the teams that are really good. Like look at the Oilers. We talked about them a few times this year. They had damn near breaking the record 16 in a row. And I'm not saying every team's going to do that, but you look at the Rangers who they beat you guys in the Stadium Series. I think they won last night or the night before. They've won 8 in a row.
Yeah, they won last night.
As I look at the Florida Panthers, they've won 6 in a row. The Toronto Maple Leafs have won 4 in a row. Right now, as we speak, I mean, those are the teams that are capable of putting together good stretches of good hockey. And that's what you need to do. You need to win more games than you lose, and you need to have these nice runs where you can get some rhythm. And the Devils have lacked that all season. And I'm a little fed up. They haven't really done anything to try to fix this. I give you guys all the credit in the world. At least you fired your coach and you tried to mix it up.
Yeah.
I'm not attached to Lindy Ruff at all. I don't know that he's completely to shoulder all the blame, but I don't see the guy making adjustments with all the talent he has on his team. The goaltending situation has not been great at all this year, but I always look at, there's only a few of those guys out there in the league. You know, there's 18 skaters on the team. There's 2 goalies. The Devils have tried to bring up some guys from their farm system in net, and it's really not much better. But a lot of people want them to go out and get a guy like Jacob Markstrom on the Flames, who I think is 33, 34 years old. He's got a price tag behind him. I'm not personally willing to part with our young assets to bring in a guy who I don't think is that much better than the other guys we got in goal. So I don't completely blame the team on the goaltending situation, but bring in a veteran D-man somewhere, make a coaching change, do something to try to right the ship before the season's lost. And if the Devils end up missing the playoffs this year, I'm already furious. I'm just going to be sorely disappointed because you're wasting prime years from guys like Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt. I mean, you couldn't really ask for too much more, you know, Timo Meier, Toffoli, Mercer, the list goes on and on and on. On paper, these guys have as good of a top 9 forward core as you can ask for, and they're just absolutely squandering it. So I completely feel your pain, and I think time is just slipping away. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it. Like I said, I don't really follow the Devils as much as you do, but I think one of the main contributors is your goalie situation. I saw last night they put Vanecek on the IR, and you guys have been, like how you mentioned, you're going up and down with goalies from, you know, the minor league. So that, I think that's, like I said, I don't follow it as much as you do, but with the Devils, but I think that might be a leading contributor to why you guys are so inconsistent. Because I mean, you don't have consistent goalie play. And, and we know with NHL hockey playoffs, you can get hot with a goalie. You can win, 8-9 games in a row with a hot goalie. So Before I did want to touch on some other things too. I know you mentioned the Panthers. I mean, 6-game winning streak. They're really just playing their butts off. I mean, they got a 17-8-2 home record, 20-7 away record, and
they got hot recently. And if you look at points percentage, they're the best team in the entire league as of right now. Points percentage,
696. Yeah, 696, and then the Canucks are 690. They just have two more points. But yeah, they're just playing really good. I mean, if you look at their home and away, I think that's what's really impressive. 17-8 at home and 20-7 on the road. I mean, that's pretty impressive. That's telling you a lot. That means that they play well on the home and they play well on the road. I mean, I know it's a stupid thing to say, but it's right there on the screen. It's pretty impressive. And
100%.
you know, we talked to Chris Dolan, who's director of sales, a couple months ago. I mean, he's front and center. He tells me all about the Panthers rocking and rolling. And another guy I wanted to talk about, Austin Matthews. We talked about him. His goal scoring. I mean, look at his last 5 games. He has 7 goals, and he has 49 goals on the season. I believe the record is 84 with Wayne Gretzky. I want to say 92. Okay, yeah. So they were saying that if he keeps scoring at a rate like this, I think he'll be projected for 75 goals.
Yep.
So
I saw that exact same stat.
Yeah.
And when you looked at that list, it stood out to me because there was only 5, 6, 7 guys that had more. I mean, that's up there for sure. Really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. I just, we talked about him when we first started the show, how I think he had 2 straight hat tricks, and it was like the first time that's ever happened to start the year. So I think that was pretty cool. And then, like I said, 49, and then his last 5 games, he has, 7 goals. I mean, he had back-to-back hat tricks at one point.
Yep.
So he's on line for a really good year. And I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, he is. It's impressive. He's been pretty consistent, pretty dominant since he broke into the league, and it's crazy. He's got to have been in the league 8, 9 years now, something like that.
You got it right here. So in 2016, he was first overall pick by Toronto. So he's been in 8 years.
Yes, yeah.
Came in as an 18-year-old.
I think you could consider him the best goal scorer in the league. McDavid is probably the most complete player. He racks up the points, but he might be more of a assist guy, where Matthews, I think, is definitely the most consistent goal scorer. And I kind of wanted to mention that's a good segue into Ovechkin. We talked about him a bit this year and how he was having a down year. For a while, he was only projected to get 9 goals or something to finish the year, single digits, just completely unheard of. And he's turned it around a little bit. At one point within the last week or two, I think he had a 5-game goal streak.
Yep.
I think now he's on pace to finish around 22 goals if he keeps it up, which is not amazing, but and it's certainly different than 50, 60, 40 goals, whatever it is. He's always been in that range throughout his career. So it's definitely a down year for him, but it's nice to see him kind of pick that up. It'll be interesting depending on how many more years he plays. I think he's got a couple left. We talked about his contract.
I think it's 2 years guaranteed. I think we looked it up.
It seems like it's in the cards. If he stays somewhat average, I think he'll break the record, which would be pretty cool to see. I think he's only 50 away right now, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, last 5 games he's had 5 goals, and he's had 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 points in his last 5 games and 5 goals. So he's kind of turned it on, and
he has. They need him to do well because I don't know exactly what the story is with Nicholas Backstrom, but I think he's still away from the team. I don't know.
Yeah, he hasn't played at all. He didn't play when I saw him.
Yeah. So they need Ovechkin to play well if they're going to have any kind of meaningful run.
Yeah, they do. So, but it's going to be fun to watch Matthews. I mean, that's a lot of goals, 49 goals. I mean, I have the records right here. As you said, it was 92 and 87, and then 86, 85, and then everybody else is in the 70s. Wayne Gretzky, Brett Hall, and Mario Lemieux. So that was, I think that's pretty impressive. He can get in the 70s. I mean, there's a handful of guys that are in the 70s, which is a pretty impressive number for goals.
Yeah, Teemu Selanne did 76. That was actually his rookie year, which is just amazing. I mean, a guy comes in the league and puts up 76, good for 5th all time or something like that in a single season. Pretty crazy. But yeah, if Austin Matthews gets 75 or anywhere near that, it's a heck of a season. Because I'm going back and thinking, I want to say that the closest we've seen to that was Ovechkin, who did 65 one year.
Yeah, in 2007, 2008. And then Connor McDavid, actually last year, had 64 goals.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't realize that because the next closest was Stammer did 60 one year. That was probably years back too.
2011, 2012, he had 60 goals. And then Matthews had 60 goals in 21, 22. David Pastrnak last year had 61 goals.
Oh, wow. Wow, I didn't realize there was a couple guys in the 60s. That's impressive.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it could be
Matthews
pretty
is on
cool.
Facebook. What's that? Yeah. So I'm looking at it before. We'll get to our beer segment here, and then the back half of the show, we got some other things to talk about. Before we break away from hockey, I'm just looking at the wild card standings. I'm curious your thoughts. If you had to pick a team from each conference that you think is going to make and miss the playoffs, that might be sort of on the fringe right now, who are you picking?
Okay. I knew you were going to ask me that. So in the Western, I think the Kings are going to make
Make
it.
okay.
They're going to make it, and I think the Oilers are going to jump the Knights, and I think the Knights are not going to make it. And the reason why I say that is the Kings just recently fired, Todd McClellan as their head coach, and I want to say they're like 5-2 or 4-2 with their new coach, and they're playing up. I mean, they played the Bruins the other day, and they won in overtime on the road. I think that was a very impressive win. And obviously, the Oilers, we've talked about them all shows long. They're at 67 points, and the Knights, I mean, they've been playing a lot of hockey the last couple of years, if you think about it. So,
Yeah.
Tiredness has got to happen eventually. But I think the Oilers are going to jump them, and I think the Kings are going to go to 3. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. What about
And
the
then,
East?
and then the Eastern, I would say this is going to be a homer pick. I think my Islanders are going to do
Love
it,
it. I love it.
and I think the Red Wings are going to get out of it just because of their inexperience.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I like it. I like it. So let me go to the West and I'll give you mine. I think when I look at the teams, the top 6 right now, I think they're kind of in a conversation of their own. Like the West, the Stars, the Avs, the Jets, the Canucks, the Knights, the Oilers. I think those teams, they've been, the Oilers had a resurgence, but the other 5 have been up there for quite a while throughout the year. They just look like they're in another category in that conference. A lot of them are in the top 5 in the league in general, even when you mix them in the East. So I don't see any of those teams going anywhere. I do think it's the wild card that's sort of up for grabs.
No bull Knights pick like me, huh?
Yeah, I think the Kings are going to be in it. I think to me it comes down to the Blues or the Predators for that last spot. And I know the Blues are in it now. They're kind of tied. I think the Blues actually miss out from the West side, and I think the Predators are going to grab that last spot. I'm a bit of a fan of Trotz, what they got going on there.
Yeah.
Not so much the head coach, but I believe in their roster. Saros, I think he's not having his best year, but he's pretty solid in goal. I think they can ride him. You talked about goalies getting hot, and if he does, I think he can propel them into a playoff spot. So I like the Blues to miss. I like the Preds to make it from the East, from the West, and go into the East side. I said it before. I know I like to try to be optimistic, and I love your pick.
Yeah.
I just have this pit in my stomach. The way things are going, I have a feeling I'm going to be disappointed, and I think the Devils missed the playoffs. I don't love the way things are going right now. I just think I'm going to be sitting at the end of the year, looking at 16 teams, and if the Lightning end up making it, I'll certainly root for them. If they're not in it, I usually try to find a non-Devils rival that I maybe get a little interested in, root for.
Maybe the Panthers. We could be a Panthers squad.
Could be the Panthers. I don't really have anything against them. I'd love to see Dolan. He can get another championship ring for his finger. The Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Get his day with the cup or something like that. So I just have
the feeling that
yeah, exactly. He would have to do that. So that's who I think's missing, unfortunately, and. Coming down to making it, there's a lot of interesting choices here. It's the Lightning, the Wings, the Islanders, the Caps, even the Penguins. It's hard for me to even put the Penguins out. I don't know that I see them making it. I think their window is, we talked about it closing a little bit. I think it's already kind of closing. I'm going to go with you guys. I think you guys do make the playoffs, so that's going to be my pick as well. I think Patrick Waugh, prideful guy. I think he's really going to crack the whip and make sure you guys, get in there. So that's my pick. Isles make, Devils miss, Preds and Blues. But I wanted to get that out there, just something a little fun we can keep track of as we close out the last couple of weeks of the season.
I might have screwed myself on the Knights, but that was a bold pick. Like I said, it's a
very bold pick. I like the Knights, but you never know. I mean, something could happen. Stranger things for sure. So
yeah, I mean, they can get the teams from coming up behind them. I mean, the Oilers could pop them, the Kings could pop them, and then the Predators could pop them. They'd be on the outside looking in. I mean, that's I mean, it is 10 points, but still, it is what it is. That could happen.
Yeah. So a little thirsty. How about you?
Yeah, buddy. Let's do it, my man.
Awesome. Take a quick little break. This is Overtime Sports Show. When we come back, we'll do our beer reviews like we always do, but take a short break for 5 and back in a minute. Stick with us.
Yep. Yeah, buddy. All right.
Everybody's favorite segment of the show.
That really is. It's a lovely one.
I think, keep me honest as always, but I think you went first last time, so I got the honors.
Yeah, I think I did go first last time.
Okay. I got one a little similar probably to last week. I'm hoping maybe a little bit more mild, but there's a theme, and I'm definitely going to switch it up starting next week, but I'm going to hold it up here if you can see this.
Oh, Sour Patch Kids. Nice.
It's another sour beer. So
look at you. I like it. The sour train. I like it.
Week, I had that very, very sour strawberry shortcake kind of thing.
Yep.
This stood out to me again. I mean, broken record, but I'm a can art guy. I'm a visual.
You're going to like my can art.
Grab my attention. And this thing is colorful as hell. The fact that it says Sour Patches or Patches Treat makes me think of the candy.
I mean, that was my favorite. That's still my favorite candy of all time.
Is it really?
Oh,
yeah. I enjoy it. It's I'm more of a chocolate sweets guy, but it was a good candy. And I'm interested to see how it compares. It says on the label, it's a sour ale with sour gummy candy, certified colors and FDNC yellow number 5, which I don't think that's great actually. Isn't that the stuff that's like supposed to lower your swimmers or something like that?
Yeah, that's what's in Mountain. It's in Mountain Dew. So I mean, a lot of people drink Mountain Dew. So I don't know. I mean, you can't really always.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I have my pseudo boys, so I'm not interested in the offspring anyway. So it's all good.
Yep.
This thing is from it says McAllister, Oklahoma. It's 5.5%. And it says Prairie Artisan Ales, I guess, is the brewery. So, and Patches Treat is the name of the beer. So
very cool.
Give this a shot.
See if we can keep the streak going of pouring good beers.
It comes out looking red. It's not red. It's definitely a gold.
Okay, you keep the streak going of pouring good beer. Congratulations.
Yeah, look at that. Pretty good.
Decent. Looks like a yellow Sour Patch Kid almost, right?
Yeah, I was expecting a little bit darker of a color, but not going to judge it yet.
How's it smell?
Smells, I mean, it's got all the sour smell you would expect, and definitely tastes a little bit like opening a box of candy. So let's see.
Oh boy, here we go.
Ooh, man.
Yep, that's not a good face.
No, it actually believe it or not, it brings a little bit of a smile to my face because it's exactly what I was expecting. It's sour.
Okay.
And if you know me now, I mean, sour beers aren't my favorite because I think, honestly, not to put it so simply, I think there are good sour beers. I think there are bad sour beers. To me, the bad ones are just
Horrible.
overwhelming, a little too pungy. But this one is flavorful. Let me get one more sip.
Sure.
That's good.
Okay.
That's really good. Not overwhelming, but super, super flavorful. Like if you're in the mood for something crisp and just honestly, when I took the first sip, I kind of got a little happy because it felt like it was the liquid version of eating Sour Patch Kids and having that yummy treat.
Oh,
Whether
yeah.
it's the movies or whatever you're enjoying it for, it's the liquid version, spot on.
Very cool.
This might be something. This might be like record setting. I really think it
Oh,
is for
shit.
me. Yeah, I mean, I'm really impressed by it. I think I'm going to give it. I think this will be my best rating ever. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back in the archives, but I'm giving this an 8.6.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
8.6. I mean, this is
I like it.
close to perfect. I mean, it's really, really good. So
Nice.
yeah.
So you're gonna like this one. You talked about can art, so look at this bad boy. So it's called Naughty Neighbor. It's a American style pale ale, and then look at this bad boy. It's got the bald eagle with the helmet on. And keep me honest, I think this is like my fifth or sixth beer from Canada. This is from Burlington, Ontario, and like I
Okay.
said, it's an American style pale ale. Soaring notes of citrus and pine sparkle on a thirst quenching malt backdrop. American style pale ale is daringly different but fearlessly familiar. Stay reckless and be brave. Crushable citrus freedom. 4.9% alcohol.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think I've had a lot of Canada beers. So maybe I have to go to Canada one day and check it out. Definitely looks like a pale ale, that color.
Yeah, it's got some. It's like a blend of. It's a golden color. It looks like maybe a little more on the orange from the.
Yeah. So you can kind of see it's orange. Yep.
Little foggy, little hazy, I guess.
A little hazy. That's probably because of the citrus. It has flaked wheat, Cascade Centennial, and Citra. Its pure color is a lemon drop. They're calling it a lemon drop.
Okay.
So it definitely smells like a pale ale. Well, that's pretty good. So it's definitely a pale ale. It's could be a little sweeter, but definitely a pale ale. I'm going to go with a 8.2.
8.2. Okay.
That's
Good
pretty
beer.
good. Yeah, it's a pretty good beer. I mean, like I said, we're both suckers for can art. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Naughty Neighbor, and then it's got the bald eagle with kind of like a Daredevil helmet on, like Evil Knievel kind of.
I was just going to say.
If you look at it, it's kind of like Evil Knievel. So I think that's pretty cool. And it's from Nickel Brewing. Nickelbrook Brewing Company out of Burlington, Ontario. Nickelbrook. And if you can see the logo, it's kind of like chemistry, if you can kind of see it.
Yeah.
So
yep. Yeah,
pretty
that's
clever.
the atom. Isn't that an atom?
I believe so. Yeah. So it's pretty clever. So we'll get a little cheers.
Hey. Cheers.
Yeah, buddy. Stuff. Yeah, great stuff. Oh, that's good. Good stuff.
Yeah, that's good. I'm enjoying that one actually.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So turn the page and I'm gonna kind of give you the floor a little bit.
Sure.
Go from hockey to basketball. We talked last show a little bit about the NBA and the All-Star game coming up, the dunk contest. I know you saw a little bit of it. I didn't see too much. From what I heard, wasn't great. I don't know exactly why that is. I have a few thoughts. Interestingly enough, they're not quite about sports actually, and I'll describe more about what I mean on that after you get the floor. I want to give you an opportunity to give your thoughts of what you saw, what you liked, what you didn't like, and how you felt.
Yeah, so we talked about it last show. I talked about it was All-Star weekend. growing up, I used to love All-Star Weekend because I used to love watching the slam dunk competition. I used to love watching the three-point competition. And then they used to have a game where it was the rookies versus sophomores. So now they do it where it's a team of 4 teams. One team gets drafted where it's rookies and sophomores against rookie and sophomores, and then another team with rookie and sophomores, and then it's against the G League, and they play a tournament up to 40 points. First team to 40 points wins, and then the championship game is first point to 25 points wins. So that was a little funky. I mean, I used to like it when it was, like I said, just the straight rookies versus straight sophomores, because you'd be able to see everybody from the draft class playing together and then everybody from the year's previous draft class playing together. So that was a little funky. And then the All-Star events, I'm going to read off each winner. They had a skills challenge winner. That's when it's similar to hockey, when they do a bunch of different skills. They run down the court. They go through cones. They do passes, and then they finish with a layup, and then a and then a three-pointer. So that was won actually by Indiana and Indiana Pacers. They're the ones who are hosting the All-Star game. So I thought that was pretty cool. It was won by Therese Halliburton, Benedict Marathon, and Miles Turner. And they were the hometown team. They won, which I thought was pretty cool. And then the next event was the three-point competition, which is a classic. I mean, you know how that goes. You just take it and you go around the corner with each 6 balls, and then you have a money ball where you get 2 points. And Damian Lillard came out and won. He's a guard for the Milwaukee Bucks. He actually won it for the second year in a row, and he's a pretty pure shooter. So it was pretty cool to see him win. And then the next one was the slam dunk competition, which I've always loved. It's gone down. I mentioned it last show how people always wanted LeBron James in it. They wanted the top dunkers, which LeBron obviously has never done it. But this year, I think you wrote it down. I called Jaylen Brown was going to win it from Boston. But it turned out that he was in the finals against Mac McClung. And Mac McClung actually won it last year, so he won it 2 years in a row. He's a G League player for the Osceola Magic, which they play in Lakeland, and they're the AAA team for basketball.
Yep.
So I saw some of his dunks. I mean, they were pretty cool. There was one that he jumped over somebody and kind of like dropped the ball and then did it behind him. So I thought it was pretty cool. But that was pretty cool. And then they did something really cool this year with Stephen Curry and Sabrina Ionesco. I mentioned it last show, how they did a 3-point competition, and Curry topped them, which obviously I knew Stephen Curry was going to win because Stephen Curry. I mean, he's still playing to play for 5+ more years, and he already has the all-time record for most threes made. I don't know if you saw that, but he already has that. Yeah, he got it last year, and he's still going to play for, like I said, 5 or 6 more years. So that was pretty impressive. But my downer is this stupid NBA All-Star game. So I don't know if you saw the score. It was 211 to 186. I mean, I don't know what they can do differently. I mean, there's no competition. Nobody plays defense. Everybody's scoring. I mean, it's these All-Star games are getting atrocious. I mean, you look at baseball. I mean, baseball, it's probably the most purest one because you're still playing a 9-inning game. You still got to have, some kind of strategy because these guys are still throwing, 90+ miles per hour. They're still throwing curveballs. They're still playing the game fundamentally. But I think every other All-Star game, I mean, what are they doing now in NHL? They do like the divisions, and it's a 3-on-3 tournament, which is kind of funky.
Yeah, so it's going to change even next year, where they're doing some kind of countries format. Like years ago,
that's weird.
They tried something different where they did North America versus the world.
I thought that was cool. I remember that. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it was okay. This year, next year rather, they're doing a 4 nations, I think they're calling it, and I haven't gotten too much into it yet. I'm too focused on
North America, probably Europe, probably
They're doing it's the US, it's Canada, and then I want to say it's Sweden and Finland. I think are like predominantly the 4 biggest countries when it comes to player representation. But I hate that because number one, it's excluding Russia, and we don't need to make this political, but I think they're ignoring Russia because of what goes on in that country. But they're also ignoring other countries too. Like Czech has a good representation. There's German players. The Devils have a couple players from Switzerland, Nico. So I'm not 100% sure. Are those players excluded. I don't know the format yet. But you asked, and they're trying to do something presumably for the same reasons you're mentioning with the NBA, trying to make it more interesting, I guess.
I
remains
don't
to
know.
be seen if it works.
And then going to the NFL, I mean, we weren't going to talk about it, but the Pro Bowl, I mean, that's now a flag football game. So it's like, I get that the fans want to see the top players, but I just don't know. You know, we talked about it pre-show, what we would suggest or what we would talk about, but I really don't know. I mean, 211 to 186. I mean, that's atrocious. That's like, I mean, it's a lot of scoring, but still, like, why even have the game? I mean, these guys, I mean, I know that nobody's playing defense, nobody's playing hard, but somebody could twist their ankle or somebody could tear an ACL. I mean, there's got to be another way to make it more competitive. And I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up and just talk about how 211 points in a 4-quarter NBA game. That's the most points ever scored in an all-star game.
It's way too many. I mean, I can see why people would be tuned out and not interested. You mentioned it, like the NHL All-Star game is very similar. Teams aren't playing that much defense, probably not as bad as the NBA, but the NHL, they're not hitting, they're not checking. Obviously, no one wants to get injured. But it's a little unfair for the goalies. I mean, you got the best player on every team out there. Even the defenders are guys who can score. Victor Hedman, Cale Makar, those guys, they're defensemen, but they can score. So it's just not fair for the goalies. So it just feels like a formality that they're out there. And football, same thing. No one's really hitting and wants to get injured. So they're doing this flag stuff. It's kind of got me thinking, I mentioned this before we just started the conversation. This is sort of a deep thought kind of thing. But I'm curious your thoughts on it. Are we entering a period, or maybe not entering, but we're already there sort of as a society, almost on a humanity type level, where I look at the era in that you and I grew up in when we were younger. We were growing up, we did different things to occupy our time, to find entertaining. I look back at when I was younger, like I traded baseball cards, hockey cards, football cards.
Yeah, so did I.
That.
I did too.
You played with action figures and things like that. We were interested in different things. I think in this age of technology, I don't see kids these days, trading cards anymore. They're all into technology, their phones. I think kids these days, we everybody knows it seems like the world now has way less of an attention span. And I think just from a society standpoint and humans, we're losing interest in the simple things like an all-star game. I also think we're losing traditions. You mentioned the things you liked in the all-star game, the 3-point contest. I've mentioned the things I like in hockey, the fastest skater, the hardest shot, the accuracy. Thankfully, the NHL still has those in the skills competition. But I just wonder, outside of sports, if some of the stuff that bleeds into our personal lives has an effect on this. People aren't interested in these all-star games because it's not exciting to them anymore. We've sort of outgrown it from a fundamental human level. That's just something I was thinking about, completely independent of sports. But I do think it's kind of bleeding over into the sports realm.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I mean, I don't know if you remember correctly, but I want to say 5-10 years ago, the MLB made it where the winner of the All-Star game had a home field advantage in the World Series. And I think they got rid of that probably, 2-3 years ago, but I don't know what they can do to fix it. And like I said, a lot of people lose attention spans. I mean, they're going to watch it and then they're going to go to their phone. They're going to go on TikTok. They're going to go on Instagram. They're going to go on Facebook. They're going to go on X or Twitter, whatever they call it now. Yeah. But, there's really just no answer. I mean, because these players, when they go to the Hall of Fame, they're going to say, okay, 15-time All-Star. I mean, that's an accolade that goes on a player's resume. So it's still pretty important. It's just, I'm at a loss for words. I don't know how you make it where it's more competitive, or you get more of an incentive, or you get, I don't know. Like I said, I'm speechless on it.
In the NHL, for the skills competition this year, I believe they put a $1 million reward, winnings purse, if you will, whatever you want to call it, for the guy who came away with the most points, which you accumulate by winning different events. And I think it was McDavid. I think for the second year in a row he won it. But I think he walked away with $1 million, and that's not a small amount of money, even for these guys. The NHL, I think their players make far and away less than almost any of the other 4 major North American sports. But even still, that's not a small amount of money, and I think that's a great incentive to get players to care and to try and to get fans to watch. I think that's one way to go about it. Not saying it's the answer for all the leagues, but something different than I think that years past. I don't remember a big chunk of change going to the winner like that. So they're trying.
I think the NHL, I think the NBA gets like $500,000 for the winning team.
Yeah.
Which in the grand scheme of things is like $100 because they got guys making $40-50 million a year. So
$1
million to hockey, I think McDavid or the highest guy is getting $9 million. So that's almost
something like that.
15,
might be 11 or 12, but yeah, it's up there for sure.
So it's like 15 to 20% almost of their salary, which for $1 million is pretty good. But NBA, I mean, you get somebody $500,000, that's chump change when Damian Lillard's getting paid $40 million, Jaylen Brown's getting paid $50 million, LeBron's getting paid $30+ million. So, like I said, I don't know the answer to it. It's just something I wanted to bring up and just mention how 211 points in a 4-quarter basketball game of 12 minutes is a little ridiculous. If I had to say to myself,
it's a lot ridiculous for sure. It's a lot ridiculous. I mean, and basketball. It's for years it was hard for me to kind of get into it. I played basketball as a kid for a long time. I played in some church organizations. Probably played from the time I was 5 or 6 till 12, 13, something like that. And
I played for a while too.
I enjoyed playing it, but watching it was never quite the same to me. And I think it was just back and forth, scoring. And it's gotten worse over the years. The All-Star game, obviously 200 points is crazy. Even some of the regular season games are in the high. I remember watching in the 90s when it wasn't quite as bad. High scoring games were in the 90s. If you cracked 100, it seemed like you had a really good game. But now 105, 110, 115, 120, 130, it's like that's the regular nowadays, which is just too much.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, I don't know what the answer is, but I just wanted to bring up the frustration of why have an All-Star game. It's just, I know it's for the fans, but enough is enough. Sometimes you got to do something different.
Agreed. Sticking with the basketball theme, we're kind of at the 1 hour mark exactly, so we'll try to cover a couple other things quickly before we wrap. But I wanted to stick on the basketball theme just for a minute. Pertinent to the time of the year. We're sort of in the middle or end of February coming up now, and that means March Madness is on the horizon. We talked about we'll do a bracket for fun when the selections and the teams are announced, kind of like we did for the Super Bowl bracket. Should be a lot of fun. We'll get people involved, but I wanted to give a little love to a local team because I think it's a bit of a surprise. And that's the University of South Florida, the Bulls, my alma mater. They are 19-5, if I'm looking at it correctly, overall, 13-2 at home. What impressed me the most, I didn't realize this, was they are on an 11-game winning streak right now, which is pretty ridiculous. But this is, I think, the first time. I don't know if it's completely a lock yet, but it's looking like that. I think they're going to make their first ever berth into the NCAA championship, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out and a little love to all fellow and former Bull members. It should be a heck of a time if they actually do make it. So I'll be rooting for them, but just figured we could just kind of spend a moment on some NCAA. I don't know if it's probably a little too early, but do you have anybody else that's, sort of a dark horse that you're looking at right now when it comes time to the tournament? Anybody that you think is going to go the distance? I know for you being an Irish fan, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like it's hit or miss. Some years it seems like you guys are in the tournament. Other years it seems like you're in the what's the other NIT? Yeah. So what about the Irish? Are they going to be in it, you think?
No, so we've got a really young team. We got a brand new coach we got from Penn State. We got a lot of, like I said, a lot of young guys, and we're still trying to get our team correct because we had Mike Bray, and he was our coach for 25 years, and he just retired last year. So we got a brand new coach, brand new recruits, brand new coaching staff. I think it's going to take a couple years. I mean, we always have a pretty fundamental team, and what I mean by that is we always have a lot of guys that can hit the three and a lot of guys that can hit the free throw. So not this year, but I would probably say we're going to be coming up in the next year or two. Probably give us 2 years to get the coaching staff and the recruits ready. But besides that, I don't think we're going to make it. But I did want to touch on, as you said, South Florida. They're actually 17-1 in their last 18 games. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They were 2-4, and now they're 19-5. So that's pretty impressive. I mean, they beat number 10 Memphis at Memphis, and they just beat Florida Atlantic on Sunday. I don't know if you remember correctly, but Florida Atlantic was a dark horse last year who went all the way to the Final Four. So I think it's a pretty good opportunity for them to make the bracket. I mean, they're 19-5. I don't really see a reason why they shouldn't. They should be a at-large team if they don't win their American Conference championship. But going back to what you asked me, I think a dark horse. I mean, right now, I really like Purdue. I mean, they're number 3, but Purdue's got a really good team. They got Zach Edey, who's 7'3". He's an unstoppable force down low. And if they keep feeding him the ball, I mean, he averages a double-double nearly every single game. But I know that's not much of a dark horse, but I would say
I thought Purdue was 1. Maybe it was just 1 in their conference.
No, they lost a couple games. UConn is number 1, but UConn got killed last night by Creighton. So probably
didn't Purdue lose to Ohio State this weekend?
Yeah, they lost to Ohio State on Sunday. So that's why they dropped that at number 1. But a dark horse, not much of a dark horse, but there's a good team called Dayton out there. They're number 16, and they play in the Atlantic 10. They have some good players. They got a good coach. They got some good shooters.
Dayton, Ohio, or
Dayton, Ohio. Yep. Okay. So they're kind of a dark horse. They're number 16 right now, and also Kansas, North Carolina, and Duke. I mean, 8, 9, and 10. Those guys are always around. They have good coaches, good players. So I would say my guys that I like, not really dark horse, but my favorites would be, Purdue, Duke, Kansas, and North Carolina, and then my dark horse would be Dayton.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What about you? I don't know if you've been kind of focusing on it. This is a new topic for us, but.
Yeah, I don't have a great pick yet. I'm going to try to do a little bit of research. Normally, as the tournament gets closer, I start to see some players and who's had some really breakout years and things like that, and I kind of pay a little more attention. So I definitely got to do a little research. But just looking down, I spot like the usual suspects that I always the teams that I recognize as being just perennial contenders year after year. The Dukes, the Kansas, the North Carolina, even the Kentucky back in the day, those teams seem like they're always in it. I'm looking at the Gators. It's nice to see when they're in it. I don't know if there's any other Florida representation.
It's never nice to see the Gators doing well. It's never nice to see the Gators doing well. You know that.
I mean, I think at least in here, I don't have a dog in the fight, but I just like to see Florida teams in general because it creates a little buzz. Where we're located, where we live, but
not for me with the Gators. Not for me with the Gators.
I feel you. I feel you.
Michigan, so they go up there.
I mean, I just think back to did they repeat or was it 06, 08? I always forget their football and their basketball.
No, they repeated, and then the football went 06, 08, and then they went, I want to say 07, 08. They had a really good team. Joakim Noah, Al Horford. They had a really good team.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean. Like that was a fun time to watch the tournament. Like they had a lot of success, and it's not easy to repeat at all. Were they the last ones to repeat?
I believe so. Yeah.
I mean,
I think Villanova did. I think Villanova went back to back.
You're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. Friend of the show, Ryan, Villanova guy.
I was gonna say, shout out to our buddy, and I'm looking at it now. Where the hell are they? They're not up there.
No, they've had it off here. They've had.
Are they not going to make it at all?
They might make it as a at-large team. I mean, they got a pretty decent team. They probably got
like 60, 65 through 68.
It just means that like at large, like when we were talking about bowl games in college football, if you don't win your conference tournament or you don't win your conference, you're an at-large team because you beat X amount of top 25 teams, which I think they have. I mean, let me look them up real quick. I know that they got like a 500 record. Let's see if I
And
can
the
find
one
one.
thing I've never been completely clear on, like I'm looking at teams and their records, like UConn is number one. They're 24-2. So they played 26 games. Houston's 22-3. They played 25. It seems like most of the teams end up with what, like 32, 33 games
Give
at
or
the end of the
take,
season.
yeah.
Why does it vary? Like I never understood that. Why do they not play the same amount of games?
It's because they have a lot of non-conference games. They have a lot of basketball tournaments. So they do tournaments beginning of the year in Maui. They do tournaments around the holidays. So a lot of these teams, if you're not an upper echelon team, you don't get invited into the tournaments. So, like Villanova, they played a lot of tournaments, but like South Florida, they only played 24 games because they were a no-name team. They didn't play in a lot of tournaments. So it really just varies.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's part of the allure and what makes the NCAA tournament special is that there's these different ways to get in. But I don't understand it. Maybe I'm too much of a traditionalist and I watch the major pro leagues, but like it just seems like there should be a season. Every team should play the same amount of games, and then the top 64 make it. Like I don't know why
Yeah.
there's these other factors. It's always kind of eluded me the whole point behind it, but is what it is. Did you find Villanova?
Yeah, so they're 15-11. So they probably got to do really well in their conference tournament to probably make a run at it. But like I said, they're 15-11. I mean, they've had some good wins and they've had some bad losses. So it really just depends on how they're going to do it.
Did they miss last year too? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, they did. I think they did miss last year.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so we'll have to do a bracket, in the next, I guess, couple weeks. Probably have maybe 2 or 3 more shows before it kicks off. So we'll definitely I'll be honing in on that for sure, and I'll try to have maybe my pick for a dark horse by the time we do our next show next week.
Definitely. One other thing before we end the show, I wanted to touch on 2 other sports real quick. Just want to talk on UFC. I mentioned UFC last show. I mentioned that I thought all the favorites are going to win. So pretty much all the favorites won besides Henry Cerudo. He went unanimous decision. Merab Dvalishvili, he beat him 3-0 by unanimous decision. And then Ian Gary won. Whitaker won. The one that I was very surprised about was Alexander Volkanovski. He got KO'd by a right hook, and it was a right hook. He went down at 332 in round 2. And Volkanovski was an undisputed champion. I think he held one in the 145 division and the 150 division. He held the title. So I was very surprised to watch him go down because I saw him live and in color in Jacksonville about 2 years ago. He used to be a rugby player, and he's a stud. He's a beast. But really, that was the most shocker one that he lost his championship title, obviously. But
I saw that too, and it kind of made me think. Do you think? I mean, he gets a rematch? You think he gets another shot at it? And if he does, how long do you think it'll be?
So it's interesting. This dude, Ilia Tropia, he's from Spain. So I think that when they were interviewing him after the fight, they said that they want to bring UFC to Spain, and the rematch might be in Spain, which would be pretty cool because I don't think UFC's been to Spain yet. So that'd be pretty cool. And I think depending on if he had a concussion or not, there's always a 6-month rule after a fight. You have to wait 6 months if you got a concussion because obviously, you could have some major brain damage. So depending on how hurt he was, it could be 6 months, it could be 3 months, it could be 2 months, depending on his psyche is.
Yeah, makes sense.
But I think they deserve a rematch.
Definitely. I mean, I think most guys should get that opportunity to regain it because again, guys have off nights too. I mean, I was a boxing fan for a long time and was a huge Mike Tyson fan, just the dominance he had in the 80s, into the 90s a little bit. And I always it's ingrained in my memory when he got just surprised basically by Buster Douglas was, I think, his first loss and losing that championship belt. And he got his opportunities for sure. But I think anybody should get that, when you're a title holder, your flukes happen or even non-flukes, you get beat, but you should get that opportunity to try and win it back. So that'd be interesting to see. I wanted your thoughts. I just heard, they just had UFC 299. Is that what it was? Or was it 298?
It was 298. So 300 will be in 2 fights. And
2 fights.
Yeah, so they're
trying to make some kind of a spectacle about 300 just round number kind of thing? Do you know if there's anything special going on? Like, is it going to be a mega fight between
So right
someone?
now they I just saw it the other day. Give me 1 second. UFC 300. I'm sure they're going to make it a big spectacle. I mean, right
Yeah.
now they have Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill, which will be a nice fight. They got Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. I'm sure you've heard those names before. And they
Yeah.
have Wei Zhang versus Yang Nama. It's a girl fight, but I've heard of Wei Zhang. She's been around for a long time. But so far, those are the 3 fights. I mean, Pereira Hill will be a nice fight, and Gaethje
Mhm.
Holloway will be a nice fight. And
Okay.
there's rumors that McGregor's going to come back, which he's been training, and he's there's been rumors that he comes back, and I hope he does because I always like McGregor. I always like watching him fight, and he's an Irish guy, so
Yeah, for sure.
so
Interesting.
we'll
Yeah,
see what happens there.
definitely. What else you got? There was one more?
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch on some golf real quick. I don't know
Me
if you
too.
saw it, but Tiger Woods' son Charlie, he's going to qualify. He's going to do a pre-qualifier for PGA Tour Classic next week in Palm Beach Gardens. So he's going to try to go as a one of the 4 pre-qualifying sites for the PGA Tour. He's going to see if he can qualify and make it into the PGA Tour, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. I saw some of that. Um, is there? I guess I was kind of surprised. Maybe I just assumed there's no minimum age requirement. I kind of thought it was either like men only 18 up or maybe at least 16, but I think he's only 15, and I guess he
Yeah.
can qualify. If you're good enough, you're good enough.
Yeah, so he says that so this is just from ESPN. It says approximately 25 players total from the 4 pre-qualifying sites will advance to Monday qualifier, from which 4 will earn spots in the Cognizant Classic February 29th through March 3rd at the PGA National Resort. So I guess he's going to be a qualifier, and there's really no age limit, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, he's got the best teacher around. I mean, you heard me
Yeah.
last week. I said I still got a lot of faith in Tiger.
Wouldn't that be something if if he plays in the tournament with his father? I mean, that would be, I think, really, really cool. But could you imagine if he does better than him? I mean,
That would be
I,
wild.
yeah, and it would be wild. I just can't imagine Tiger how he would take that. And this is a good segue for something I wanted to mention briefly. We talked about it
Well,
last show, and
I've been
we
waiting
wrote
for this.
down.
I've been waiting
Yeah,
for
you
this.
knew it was coming. I almost texted it, but I wanted to save it for the show.
No, I've been waiting.
I said that he was going to withdraw from at least one. And I know he says it wasn't a physical thing, a back. He was sick, whatever it
Yeah,
was.
flu-like
Here we are,
symptoms.
the first or second tournament, and the guy withdraws. I mean,
He had the flu, man. Don't give him a hard
uh,
time.
you know what? Where's the violin? Like
Hmm.
I wanted to gloat so bad as soon as I saw that, and
I know.
I
I've been waiting
purposely
for it.
didn't
I
text you
know.
about it.
I was waiting for it, but I still got
Yeah.
faith in him. I mean, I said he wouldn't withdraw from any majors, so this wasn't a major.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I didn't text you because it wasn't a major. But damn, when I saw that he withdrew, I was like, I just knew it.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling for the guy. I love golf is better with Tiger in it, so I hope he can stay healthy for the majors coming up. I also want to talk about just for 2 seconds. I don't know if you hate it or if you think it was the right thing, but I'm sure you saw Spieth, who got disqualified
Yep.
for signing the wrong score. I mean, what do you feel about that? Is it the dumbest rule, golf's stupid traditions, or you think he just
No, I
screwed up?
mean, I was going to bring that up too. He owned up to it. I mean, you really gotta. I mean, we play. We played a couple weeks ago, and we're not professionals. We give people. We give each other. If we hit it a yard, we say, okay, redo it. But I
Mhm.
mean, your PGA Tour. I mean, the good thing about him is he owned up to it, and I don't think it's a dumb rule. I think it's just the PGA Tour being the PGA Tour. I mean, you're a
Yeah.
PGA Tour professional. You're getting millions of dollars from your sponsors. You're getting $1 million from winning tournaments. I think it's a good rule, and I think the coolest thing is
I
that he
do
owned up to
too.
it.
I do too.
Yeah,
I listening to Boomer and Geo. They mentioned it, and they said, I think they were incorrect because they said, which would have been a little ridiculous if he gave himself a worse score when he actually got a better score, but that's not what happened. They said he shot a 4, but he gave himself a 3, so he did give himself a better score, and obviously can't have that. But it's like you said. I mean, in my opinion, Golf's got its rules. Regardless of what you think about them, they're rules, and kind of goes back to golf being one of those sort of gentleman sports with its traditions. That's one of those things where you write down your score on your card, you're accountable for it. And I know they have all this technology to keep track. That's you're missing the point. You're recording your score and he made an error. So, I bet you he doesn't do that again. He'll probably learn from it. But yeah, definitely cool that he owned up to it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, his exact quote right here, I'll read it. I'll be quick with it, but it says, today I signed for an incorrect scorecard, stepped out of the scoring area after thinking that I went through all procedures to make sure it was correct. Rules are rules, and I take full responsibility. I love this tournament and golf course as much as any on the PGA Tour, so it hurts to not have run at the weekend. Really appreciated the support in LA. So I think it was really, big on his end to own up to it and admit that he made a mistake.
Yeah, I do too. He owned it, and he'll probably be back next tournament, I'm sure. And I just thought it was worth mentioning because he's another guy. He's been on the tour for a long time now. I think golf is better when he's in and playing well. But it was just kind of funny that signed the wrong score and you pay the consequences. So.
Yeah, we got some cool tournaments coming up too. I'm looking at the schedule right here. This weekend they'll be in Mexico, so I don't presume there'll be a big field. Then they got that Palm Beaches one that I told you about that Charlie Woods is trying to qualify for. Then they go to Puerto Rico, but then they go to Orlando for the Arnold Palmer. Then they come to the Players Championship, and then they come down by you in Tampa. So they have about 4 tournaments in Florida, which I think is pretty cool. That's always a fun.
It is.
It's always a fun one when they have like 4 tournaments in the state of Florida, and we get to watch them. And
yeah,
so I think it's pretty cool. It's golf is a fun sport, especially that we play it and then we get to see it. So
it is. It is. The more I play it, I've got the bug. I think you probably do a little bit too. Like I've been pretty heavy into golf. Side note, I actually might be picking up a set of used PXGs in the next day or two. Yeah.
Nice.
So it's been in the cards. We've talked about it. I've been due for a new set. I've got some old TaylorMades that have served me well for a little while as I've been learning the game, trying to get better. But really, really been interested in trying a better set of clubs. They're not brand new. I want to say they're 2021, like Gen 2.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
They've got a good name behind them. Supposedly it's a good combination of forgiveness and distance. So probably getting them from a friend of mine who's maybe helping me out, but cool. Interested to see what that does to my game. I'm sure it'll take some getting used to, but obviously the goal is hopefully it makes me get a little bit better. So who knows, next time you and I play, maybe I'll have a stroke or two, because you got me last time by a couple. So
yeah. But I think it was 105.99, but who's counting, right?
Yeah, don't say that on here anymore. People don't need to know that. No,
that's okay. It was fun.
We're honest. It's like you said. We play just as friends. It's healthy competition. You flub the ball or whatever. Maybe we allow you to move it or something like that behind a tree or something. I'm definitely a kind of plays it as it lies guy. I'm hard on myself. I think that's how I get better. If I hit a bad shot, I like to play it where it is, but. We do play for fun. We play by the breakfast ball rule, 1 mulligan per 9 kind of stuff. We're still just journeyman golfers right now, and that's what makes it fun. So
yeah, exactly. So I think that's all we got. I mean, this is a pretty solid show without football. I have to say so myself.
Yeah, absolutely. One of these days, we'll try to condense it down to an hour, but content's content. I think we're still producing a good show, a lot of good stuff to talk about. So. Hope everybody enjoys it. We super appreciate our listeners. Good stuff as always. And we'll be back in a week or so with more of the same stuff. But any last parting words?
That's it. I think we're rocking and rolling. We'll see everybody on Tuesday.
Appreciate you, everybody. Have a good evening. Peace out.
Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Gather up all juggalos and roll. Come on. Everybody come see the greatest show. Come on. Everybody come, everybody come, everybody.